then it's very hard to talk to people. Nathan, 23. This is a feminized man, dude. Feels similarly. While I've had friendships with men, they've never been very close, he says. I have a best friend. She's female.
Bruh.
Nope. And she's probably the only person I talked about my personal issues with. You see what I mean?
Bruh.
Men are so screwed these days. Local enterprise broadcasting seems like sense of humor is left out of many of these types of videos. Learn to laugh at the world around, but most importantly, learn to laugh at yourself. Indeed.
A Pagani BC.
Now we got this article. Why do straight men have no friends, guys? I don't know. I have a feeling we're going to find out. Research shows that the number of men with no close friends is increasing. Are we sleepwalking into a male loneliness epidemic? I keep telling you guys about the brotherhood. It's the single most important thing you can create for yourself. And it's usually the bond with your brothers is usually lifelong. Here we go. Let's see. Are we going to get any woke terminology here? You don't need it like, who wants to bet toxic masculinity may be used in this article? I don't know yet. You don't need a degree in psychology to know that friendships are different depending on gender. Men have historically bonded by relentlessly deriding one another's haircuts and giving each other nicknames like Sponge and Meatball. What the fuck? Who wrote this? We got to see who wrote this. Is this a man or a woman? Doesn't say. Women, meanwhile, will bond by bearing little pieces of their soul to one another until one day they're squeezing 4 people into the same toilet cubicle because they can't bear to be apart from each other for even 5 minutes until Chad steps in and decides to pick one and then there's a catfight. This is a generalization, granted. Obviously, some women will struggle to connect with other women, and some men will have close friendships with other men, and some may not feel any relation to these gender categories at all. But research affirms that men are less likely to form close friendships than women. Yeah, and this has only been an advent of modernity. Men used to have brotherhoods all the time. It wasn't until recently, at least here in the West, that we've lost male spaces. We've lost mentors. Sports have gone out the window. There's like not even PE class anymore in some schools. What do men have left to bond over? Male teachers have evaporated. Shop class disappeared. We don't learn with our hands anymore. Online forums for men get shut down because one guy says something and it's actionable and oh my God, it's a threat. But research affirms, blah, 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 says YouGov survey from 2019 found that 1 in 5 men have no close friends, twice the proportion for women, and things are getting worse. 2021 research by the mental health charity Movember suggests that nearly a third of men feel as though they do not have any close friends, any friends at all. It also goes without saying that generally this is predominantly an issue among straight men too. Barney, 23, tells me that he struggled to feel close to his male friends. I find men difficult to understand and read, he says. Yeah, that sounds a little fruity to say. The fuck? What man said some shit like that? I think most men communicate by sharing interest and passions, whether that's cars or football or, women. So if you don't share those passions,
Bruh.
Told you, I called it. I don't really care about sports or cars, then it's very hard to talk to people. Nathan, 23. This is a feminized man, dude. Feels similarly. While I've had friendships with men, they've never been very close, he says. I have a best friend. She's female.
Bruh.
Nope. And she's probably the only person I talked about my personal issues with. You see what I mean?
Bruh.
Men are so screwed these days. Why is this the case? Asked Professor Robin Dunbar, an anthropologist at the University of Oxford. Is this in the UK? Where's this article at? And his answer was simple, because they are men. Generally, men have fewer close relationships than women, he explains. Men's friendships also have a very different quality to women. They are more activity-based. I told you, sports, or in the trenches, in war, or hunting together, or anything else, fishing, you name it. With conversation being largely ancillary and contentless, their relationships are more casual and more club-like, whereas women's friendships are more dyadic and personalized. It makes sense. And this is something I've noticed in my own life too. I usually go for a coffee or dinner with my female friends, while my male friends are more likely to play football or watch film or go rock climbing together. For me, actually talking to my friend is the whole point of hanging out. For men though, socializing appears to revolve around shared hobbies and doing stuff together. No shit, Sherlock. And that's why they have deeper bonds, because they're sharing experiences. As Dunbar puts it, for women, who you are matters much more than what you are. Whereas the reverse is the case for men. It's worth pausing here to consider whether this actually matters. In one mode of socializing really better than the other, or is it just that men and women are just inherently different? Dunbar seems to think that the latter is the case. The difference has very deep roots. We see the same pattern in monkeys and apes. Isn't that something, eh? Monkeys and apes are similar. Look at that. Men don't do emotional intimacy. It really is a foreign concept. It's just not an aspect of the world they're interested in. But other academics would disagree. One recent study from the University of Michigan concluded that women are no more emotional than men.
Bruh.
What?
Stop the cap.
Men may also appear less emotional because of societal pressures.
Stop the cap.
As for generations, they've been told explicitly and implicitly to be stoic. Oh my God.
Misogyny.
Resilient and tough and suppress traits like sensitivity, patience, and tenderness.
Misogyny.
Oh. Which in turn precludes any real chance of men fostering genuine, deep connections with one another. Oh, is that what it is, brah? Who the fuck? Who is this? Who is this? University of Michigan. Yeah, I bet you they're crawling with rainbow hairs over there. Local, thanks, brother. Thank God my time in the Marines. I've got my own house, a good career, 37, can run 3 miles in under 20 minutes, and brothers in all 50 states. Just found your channel and love the content. Ooh, raw, dude. Appreciate your service. Unfortunately, the Marines are going woke too, eh? You're told that you should take bullying, which is often dressed up as a joke, on the chin. Aww. So you can't even make fun of the boys anymore. You can't bust people's balls. So you can't be a man. Huh. Busting each other's balls is how we get thick skin. Can't do that. You're hurting feelings. And if you do talk about it, you're just being weak. It's something that I've seen a lot in university life. Like, not where men are. It's not something that's gone away. He has that all-pervasive attitude that's caused issues with his mental well-being.
Bruh.
Wow. Barney has had a similar experience. I think men are conditioned to be less emotional with this is like femme propaganda. You see what I mean? I don't talk about my personal issues with male friends much. I can't share when I'm struggling with people I would classify as close friends because those aren't really your close friends. That's the problem. I think it all comes from a position of worry, fear, and anxiety about not being enough of a man. You get so paralyzed by what society expects to be strong and stalwart. It's hard.
Bruh.
So that's bug sandwich energy right there. This lack of platonic male-on-male intimacy isn't something to be swept under the rug. Research shows that social isolation can weaken the immune system and make people more vulnerable to ailments like Alzheimer's, heart disease, and high pleasure. And naturally, feeling unable to confide in a friend can also take its toll on a man's mental well-being. While women will unashamedly pour their hearts out to one another and feel better for it, men are more likely to repress their emotions until they either punch a hole in the wall or break down after sinking 7 pints, and no one will ever mention it again. Obviously, this isn't sustainable, and is part of the reason why men account for almost 3/4 of self-deletions in the UK. There is a lot more reasons than what they're saying. There aren't just individual impacts either. There are societal impacts too. Author and psychologist Professor Niobe Way has argued that the growing isolation of men correlates with the rise in societal violence and yes, and they're weak men with low T and rainbow hair and told to be more feminine and more in tune with their emotions. And these are the weirdos now that are perpetuating these acts of mass violence on us all today. It turns out they're not particularly right-wing or overwhelmingly white, but compared to non-incels, they are lonelier and they less likely have social support. Oh, it says incels, it turns out, are not particularly white-wing. Yeah, okay. That's the real common denominator, loneliness. There are no straightforward answers to such thorny issue, and it's certainly not, yeah, there actually is, dude. And, but there's hope yet. I think there's been a massive push recently to get men to open up, feminize, and people are doing that a bit more, feminization, even if it's with their closest circle, Barney says, and perhaps that's all men need. Not a therapy group that meets in the pub every other day, but just close few to rely on when times get tough. Unfortunately, everything they're saying here to do is exactly the opposite of what's going to lead to strong men. Like, men grow through testing themselves, to pushing their limits and their boundaries of what makes them comfortable, to doing things together that's difficult. Men need a tribe, exactly. Why it's called Tribe of Men, why we have a Discord, and why everybody rallies around the Spartan Challenge, because everybody's going through it. We all got our demons, but what brings us together is that we're working on them, and we're sharing our experiences as we do. That's called camaraderie. That's not something that's found in a woman's vocabulary. We live in the beginning of Fight Club. No, dude, it's even worse than that. Fight Club is way past that. We're headed towards Demolition Man. That's where we're actually headed. You guys should rewatch that video. It's painfully clear that we're going towards the insane utopia with complete incompetence and masculinity stamped out and seen as something ape-like and caveman and disgusting, has no place in a civilized society. That's where we're headed right now. Yeah, wipe your ass with seashells. Goddamn, tongue twisters.